So this past Tuesday evening, I got off the train on my way home, walked out of my train station, and right in front of me in the sky saw the most glorious full moon in the sky. Right? Everybody's like, yes, I saw that. It was also a perfectly clear evening. Right? It was glowing. It was so amazing. And for that first moment, I just enjoyed staring at it. I was like, oh, God, it's so beautiful, right? And then the next moment, I thought, oh, that means it's 2 weeks until Elul. So 2 weeks, it's now 10 days, not that I'm counting, until Elul, and the season when we begin the preparations of our souls for the high holidays. Okay, I see a few people going, oh no, not yet, oh no, not yet. Believe me, I'm kind of there with you, and I'm also kind of not, right? There's the both and. Every year, I feel like I'm not ready, right? No matter how much I prepare for high holidays, I feel like I'm not quite ready. I haven't quite prepared enough. And Elul is really one of the gifts of our tradition. It's a full month. Can you imagine a full month? Imagine if people spent all of December preparing for January 1st. Like, that sounds like nonsense, right? I'm sure there's somebody out there who actually throws the kind of party where they're like making the drink list and the set list. But this isn't that. This is like a month of focusing on our souls. A month of preparing, as if the 10 days from Rosh Hashanah through Yom Kippur aren't enough. As if the almost a month from Slichot until the end of Simchat Torah, as if that's not enough, we get a full extra month just to prepare for all of that, for that intensity, that the circles of intensity we move in and in and in. So last year, some of you may remember, every day during the month of Elul, I shared a piece of a text, a song, a poem, a teaching, something on Facebook during the month of Elul that was feeding my soul, something that would be a moment of inspiration, something that was helping me think about what values I wanted to center in the new year. I may do the same this year. We'll see. I always have very good intentions. And even though we're now 10 days away from Rosh Chodesh Elul, the beginning of that month, I want to share a few things that have deeply inspired me, especially since I have spent the week, as many of you I'm sure have, watching a lot of the DNC. I have to say that after a full week of watching one magnificent speech after another, the Obamas, Reverend Warnock, Rabbi Sharon Brous, I will admit that most of the week I spent thinking, I'm giving the Drashah this week. Not intimidated at all. I feel like, Reverend Warnock, if you're watching, thank you for the inspiration. Ha ha ha. So first, I want to name Shirley Chisholm. On my winter coat, which I'm not wearing yet, thank goodness, I wear a pin of Shirley Chisholm's face with her slogan, "Unbought and Unbossed." It's one of the joys of my life when people recognize her when I'm, out and about in New York. This book, Unbought and Unbossed, also the title of her first book, she wrote while she was serving in the New York State Senate, and just a couple of years before her run for president as the first Black woman to try to run for president in this nation. And reading that book really changed me. I've read it now probably 3 times over the different years of my life. And as an aside, can I just say to Ariel, our wonderful communications person, I actually meant this to be the recommendation, like the book recommendation from the CBST staff that would go on the Facebook page that we've been. If you haven't seen the CBST staff book recommendations on Facebook, highly recommended. I've been taking them, they're great. This one turned into a sermon. Maybe we'll still post it. But one thing I really strongly took away from reading Shirley Chisholm's book was how much she deeply understood her own worth, how much she knew her own value. It is very easy to not understand our own deep value in the world. It really takes work, and Chisholm did that work. Even if intellectually we know, right, every human being has value in the world, each of us, fills a gap in the universe in our presence here. When she was trying to succeed as a Black woman in politics in her time, in a place when so many people were actively working to deny that Black people or women were valuable as other human beings, that takes work. It is hard to exist in a place and time when people treat you like your life has less worth than other people, right? We know this. It's true for so many people. It's true for people who are Black, who are Asian, who are Latina, anyone who is not Christian in this country, for women, for lesbian and gay, and especially for trans and non-binary folks. So for anyone who's in these categories of feeling every day that there's these messages that, nope, your life doesn't matter as much as other people's lives matter, it is so necessary to periodically immerse ourselves deeply in thinking, what are the gifts that I bring to the world simply by being who I am? Because every single one of us has the potential to be a gift to the world simply by being who we are in the world. So Chisholm really clearly did that work and did it well. And she showed up with incredible courage and a deep understanding that she belonged at those tables where famously she said she was going to bring a folding chair if no one was putting out a seat for her. This is part of the work that Elul is actually an opportunity to do. I also want to name Fannie Lou Hamer, national hero of voting rights and civil rights, who spoke at the Democratic National Convention 60 years ago this week about massive efforts to fight voter suppression in Mississippi and make sure that Black people there were able to register and able to vote, facing, just absolutely appalling violent opposition. If you haven't read about Fannie Lou Hamer, also immerse. This is deeply relevant to our current moment, and she really is a national hero. And Fannie Lou Hamer said, I love this line, "Never forget where we came from, and always praise the bridges that carried us over." I'll say that again. Never forget where we came from, and always praise the bridges that carried us over. I know, I'm getting chills too, right? It's like, whew. Elul is a chance to do this work, to connect deeply to our history, to connect deeply to ourselves, and to praise the things that help us move forward. Over the last 8 years, I cannot count the number of times that someone has told me, wow, we're living through history. Or maybe like with less excitement, oh God, we're living through history, right? Both and this is a moment, this is a historic time. And we have lived through a lot of historic, unprecedented times, both recently and in decades past, some of which will make it into history books, some of which may not. And in each of these moments, it is so important to hold on to who we are, for each of us to remember what gives us strength, to remind ourselves that we have value and we have power, and to draw on our history and our sense of self to imagine how we build a better future. So I love prayer for many reasons. Sometimes people will say oh, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. I, not jokingly, will say, oh, I'm religious, I'm not really spiritual. Give me the words of the Amidah any day, although I actually just read a Yiddish poem instead of the Amidah tonight. You never know what's going to come out. But one reason I love prayer is that it's a chance to articulate the world that we want to see, really to articulate our goals and our values. So when we read Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel's letter to Dr. Martin Luther King, saying that he felt he was praying with his feet when they marched together, it's because when we are praying, we are describing in words the things that we want to be able to go out and physically do. In some of those prayers, we start by naming ancestors, to remind ourselves that we are part of a generations-long chain of people doing this work. In some of those prayers, we very specifically ask for redemption, for liberation, for healing. We quite literally ask for good judges, for all humans to put down their weapons, for everyone to have a safe place to live and enough to eat. But, people like to say to a bar mitzvah kid, it's not the end of your education, it's the beginning. Prayer is not the end of prayer. Prayer is the beginning. Prayer is the beginning of what we then go out and do in the world. Like Heschel, moving from praying with our souls, our lips, our hearts, to praying with our hands and our feet. And there are some days when the words of the Amidah are actually exactly what I need, right? The words that have been handed down through generations upon generations. The feeling of being connected to those generations of people who have prayed these words before me, and the connection to the generations of people, God willing, who will pray these words after me. And there are some days I just have a quiet conversation with myself or with God about what I want our future to look like. And when we sit and pray together, whichever words we use, we are saying at the core that we have some common vision of what is that world we want to see. What is the world that we want to participate together in building? What are the visions that will sustain the generations that will follow us? So this week has been a week. I did not sleep enough this week. I suspect I'm not the only one in this room who did not sleep enough this week. But on Tuesday night, when I got off the train and saw that glorious full moon, and I realized that Elul is coming, I took a deep breath. I never really use Elul the way that I want to. I always end the month feeling like I could have done a little more. I could have been a little more consistent, a little deeper. I always try. I have a really good friend who shares really beautiful writing prompts for Elul every year. Like, he literally sends out a lovely prompt every day. He's a poet. They're wonderful. Every year I sign up for the prompts and I think, yes, I'm going to do it, and it's going to be so good for my soul. And then I'll get through a week and then fall off the wagon, or I'll do it like twice and then feel guilty on the weekend that I should catch up, and then I don't, and the guilt doesn't help. Got to let go of the, like, I should do this thing. It's got to be something that fills it, not drains it. But last year, when I posted my daily reflections on Facebook, I did so because I felt like I needed the accountability of saying on that first day, I'm going to do this every day, so that then like half of you would be like, Rabbi, where's that post today? It worked. And I did a little bit of learning each day, taking a little fragment of something. Nothing new. It was all things that I know are important to me, that I know sustain my soul, that I know have given me strength at different times. And I wrote a tiny little bit about each one of those things to be able to share it, to say, here's a song that helps me feel most like myself. Here's a text that makes me feel a little stronger and ready to start a new year. And sharing a little something digestible every day last year and seeing everybody's responses and offerings and, oh, but have you read this? And, oh, I love that song. And, oh, I remember roller skating to that when I was 8. Like, that stuff actually kind of gave me life. It was very, very wonderful. So reflecting on these things and kind of developing the well of what are the things that give you the strength, they help you remember who you are in the world and who you want to be in the world. This is the time to be thinking about what are the gifts that you want to give to the world and what bridges have carried you here. These are the things that help our souls be ready for a new year. And to be totally honest, I have to say that no amount of that work could ever have prepared my soul for this past year. Nothing could have prepared my soul or any of our souls for this past year. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to do it again. We're going to try again this year. Because who knows? We don't know what's going to come. But whatever it is, we're going to do our best to feel that we are rooted, that we are growing. We are always preparing for the unknown. That tiny little silver sliver of moon that we will see, if the skies are clear, 10 days from now, on Rosh Chodesh Elul, we will see the darkest version of the sky, and we will see that there is something new that is about to start. It's a beginning of a new chance to build. It's a beginning of a new chance to soak into loving who you are and really loving the image of who you're going to be in the coming year. This month is a gift. It's a time to look back and say, where have I put my energies this past year? Am I happy with who I've been? I ask myself every year during Elul, have I been a good friend? Have I been a good wife? Have I been a good sister, a good daughter? Have I been a good rabbi? When have I fallen short? What are the ways I don't want to fall short this year? And I have fallen short in a lot of ways this year. I think we all have. I think the whole world has. And I suspect many of us are feeling pretty bruised in a plethora of ways by this year. So don't be intimidated by immediately jumping into, well, how do I fix it? Right? We come from a culture that's very much like, oh, there's a problem, let's fix it. So I want to remind everyone how deeply important it is to first ask, who do I want to be in this world? And what are the things that bring me so much joy that I feel fully like myself? And then we can start to think about the bigger questions. So to quote another of our sages from a book that has been a foundational text for me for most of my life, Dr. Seuss, in the book Happy Birthday to You, I will say I actually didn't need to write this in here because I've known this book since I was 3 years old. I can probably recite at least half of it by heart now. But my favorite passage is, if you'd never been born, well, then what would you do? If you'd never been born, well, then what would you be? You might be a fish or a toad in a tree. You might be a doorknob or 3 baked potatoes. You might be a bag full of hard green tomatoes. Or worse than all that, you might be a wasn't. A wasn't has no fun at all. No, he doesn't. A wasn't just isn't. He just isn't present. But you are you. And now isn't that pleasant? I'm just going to imagine that most of that applause was actually for Shirley Chisholm and Fannie Lou Hamer, and not only for Dr. Seuss, but thank you, yes. So as we move closer to Elul, it's an interesting group of quotes anyway, I do want to encourage you all to really feel that who you are in the world really matters, that your soul has a deep, deep value. Who you are is necessary in this world, and really let yourself feel that. Let yourself get into that in such a deep way that maybe we'll all wind up feeling a little more prepared, a little more ready for the year that's going to come ahead. We need to be ready for the year that's going to come ahead. So let yourself take the equivalent of this month-long, deep soul breath, right? You're going to step back and look at yourself and look at your life. Be proud of what you do. Be proud of who you are. And then think deeply about what is the world you want to see. I will probably do my Elul series again, right? I'm saying it out loud, so it means I have to now. I need the accountability. And at CBST, we have an amazing month worth of learning planned for Elul. You should have gotten that email. If you didn't, I'm sure you'll let us know on Monday. But dig in and see, among the offerings, what is there that's going to help give your soul something of that deep breath that you need. So whatever you do, I hope that in 10 days, when you see that little silver sliver of a moon, that it stirs excitement for you of all the possibilities, of all that could be growing in this season, and all the things that you might be doing to help water them. Shabbat Shalom.